Welcome, welcome to another episode on the challenges and triumphs of online teaching during COVID-19 at the Female Educators Roundtable with your host, Debby Enoe from Teacher Success Coach, and one of my guests, Tiffany. Welcome. Thank you, everybody, for coming online. Sorry we're a bit late, but there's sometimes coming on could be quite challenging. Welcome to another of my guests from around the world. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Tiffany Michelle Mapp, and I am from Killeen, Texas. I am a professor of psychology at Central Texas College, and I am a mental health services professor at Central Texas College. I'm also a student success coordinator for the School of Social Sciences at the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor. And I've been in education for about 25 years and about 18 years as a professional school counselor and supervisor as well. And so I'm very excited. And I'm also a neo-soul recording artist, singer, songwriter, producer. And I go by my artist name, my first and middle name, Tiffany Michelle. So really excited to be here.
Wow, thank you. Not only are you an educator, you're also the creative aspect of you, because you say you're artist songwriter. So that's really
artistic.
That's brilliant. Yes. Because too often people tend to think that, we are just only an educator, but a lot of us have other skills. Yes. Because I'm also a carnival band designer. So, we all have different skills that sometimes we demonstrate it, sometimes we don't.
Yes, and I'm one of those that try to use that, what's that term, multi-potentiality. So I try to, or in my life, I want to do everything, and we still trying to do everything, so.
Why not? Because I think on the aspect of education, creativity is very useful. Mm-hmm. It is extremely useful. I am not saying that you have to have it, but when you do, it's useful, and it does make your lesson far more creative and enjoyable than if you did not have that creative flair to you. So exactly. In a lot of areas, there are a lot of educators who have different string to the bow. Some of them are artists, some of them are writers. Mm-hmm. So they're not just educators, and I think people need to be aware of that. We are not just educators, we're multifaceted, because we have lots going on. Some of us are, writers, some of us are artists, etc. Because I've got a book I'm finishing off. I also do Notting Hill Carnival. I also design, so as well as an educator. So we have lots of things going for us.
Exactly. And then just being an educator, we're also a student as well, always learning and always evolving,
Yeah, that's an important factor. Always a student. Thank you. Because we just not just educate and there is a full stop. No, as educators, we are also lifelong learners. We are constantly learning in order to evolve, in order to know what is new in our area of expertise, so that you're bringing to your student new dimension all the time. And it's so important that as educators, we constantly learn, and remember, we are lifelong learners. It's important.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Amen.
important.
It is. It's very important, because sometimes in life you think that you just arrive and you're going to be stagnated. You're always learning. Yeah. And we learn in so many different ways.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Educators, we never stagnated. We lie in our bed and remember, I need to do this for this student. Yes. Oh, they didn't understand what I did yesterday. So I need to make sure that everybody understands it today. So our mind is always going.
Yeah.
Okay, we're looking at in terms of teaching online during the pandemic. Yeah. And a lot of us have actually taught online during this interesting period. Mm-hmm. So for you, what was it like teaching online, and how did teaching online made you feel as an educator who have been used to or are used to the physical building? Because online is nothing that we've ever been taught of or even ever thought that we'll ever be on this so-called online platform. We only know the physical classroom. We were trained to be in the physical classroom. So now we transition into this new normal online platform. How does it make you feel as an educator?
Actually, for me, it's just going to be more innovative. So for me, it's been a smooth transition because I've been a professor online for about 5 years now in mental health services. So I always taught online. And then when I started teaching psychology, I was in a hybrid format. So that means that they will come on a Saturday for about an hour and 20 minutes, but then they would do their work in their educational platforms, such as Blackboard. So I've always been teaching online in different platforms now. So when the pandemic started and then it went into total online, it was just a smooth, for me, it was a smooth, really wasn't a transition. It was just smooth because everything that we've been doing is online. We had our curriculum, we had our assessments and everything. So everything was, it was a smooth situation. I will say when we talk about the new normal, a lot of times people are stuck in tradition and the world will continue to move on and you can still be stuck in an era. So I do see this as being the new innovation. We always talked about technology in our, they always try to put that into our TEKS, which is our scope of sequence in as far as learning. But see, this is the thing, it's more than just putting it in there, the application of it. That's where we are right now. Nobody thought, I mean, who would have thought we would have been in a pandemic? So it forced people that we had to change. We had the technology all along, but we just have not used it. And now we had to be forced, and those people who were still wanting to be in tradition with the pandemic in education, we had to be forced, where we happen to teach online. So that changes the what? The paradigm. It changes everything in teaching our students and looking at it just being in a classroom and provided instruction. Now we are doing things online. And so I don't know, I can't say, I can only speak for, I don't know everybody was prepared for that. But you had to think out of the box and you had to be innovative in your approaches of education. So I would say for students, because a lot of our students are in the tech world, they probably gravitate towards that a lot more than our generation or the generation before us, because they are used to that technology. But if you have those who still stuck in an era, so for instance, in music, if you still on tape cassettes and we're streaming right now, you're not moving towards the new reality. We can want and everything else, but this is the reality for us to keep safe. And this is the new innovation. So I think people are having to now adapt. Maybe that's the word. And that's what education, we have to learn how to adapt and to keep it moving. Because we might not be in a classroom for a long time now. So what do? You're doing everything online. And that causes some stress, particularly if you have educators who are not as savvy online. I imagine they're learning now, and even as students. And then you have parents, because of the pandemic, if they were shut down, they might have had to teach their students as well. So yeah, it's just so much that can go with it. But for me, it's been a pretty smooth transition as far as teaching my students. And I try to use innovative approaches so that they can feel comfortable in their education experience.
Thank you. The interesting thing about it is, for educators, for education especially, education needed the shift. because education have not shifted at all. As I kept saying in every session, that every other industry had made the shift except education, because it's lovely that you use the word tradition. Yes, education have always been a traditional platform. I.e., when I say platform, I mean in terms of the physical classroom. It's always been stuck in tradition, whereby, you know, this is the way we've always done it. And therefore, some educators continue to repeat, this is the way we've always done it. But COVID have actually forced them, there is no how we've always done it. This is the way you are going to do it from now on.
And you know what? Exactly. And that is the reality. A lot of times people don't want to be they don't want to be in reality. People can see what they want to see. And when you were saying, I always do it, I always did it this way. Okay, that's fine. And that's your tradition and that's your choice. But guess what? You're going to have to move with the times, because education is about connecting with your students. How are you going to connect with your students if you're talking about 1800s and you still in the 1800s, or what I shouldn't say 1800s, but you still in those little, those little the horses and that little whatever that little thing, like on Little House on the Prairie, and we sitting up here trying to go George Jetson like on the cartoons. So I mean, you have to be flexible and you have to be innovative, because with students, how are you going to continue? How do you reach your students? It's not about you, it's how do you connect and reach your students so that they can learn the concept. If you're always doing, just like in colleges, if everybody just teaching you know, and not bringing anything relative and things in life, that's not helping anybody. So I'm glad that you said that about, I always did it this way. I'm just not one to be, that's just not me anyway. You have to have innovation and be able to connect to your students. And learn from them as well.
Exactly. And I think this is what the pandemic have actually forced some educators to do, to have to be gracefully learning from the students, because educators have put themselves here that they have all the answers.
Yes, like I've had, like when they found out, like I was at a university, and when they found out I was a professor, then I was talking about online, the rigor is not there. Like, first of all, as a professor, you have to get out of your ego, because just because you have a PhD, I can learn from a homeless man than anybody from the top. So your degrees is the level of education, of course, that you have maintained to get you like you said, your qualifications to be able to teach. But we can learn from anybody and everybody. And so to say the rigor is not there, well, how is it now? Because you had to change your format because we are in a pandemic. So you went from teaching in a classroom to online learning. And that's hard if you never had that experience before, because you have to be willing and able to change and move with the times. We are not in 1960, 1970, 80, 90. We are in 2020. And our students don't, and we have to stay current with the times. Even in our education, how are you going to keep teaching people? It's just like now we're in history. We're in history right now. People are now learning about Black Lives Matter or different experiences all around the world about politics and you know, racial things. And people say, I've learned more in this period of time than I've learned in a history book. So, I mean, we just have to stay innovative and real and connect with our students so that they can make a difference in this world. That's just how I feel. So to me, I think the pandemic, on one hand, God knows what he's doing. It's forcing people to get out of their comfort zone. Yes. It is. Yeah, nobody cares about your degrees while you online to puff up. Now you have to learn. You know what I mean? I'm just for real. If you, I mean, now you have to puff up, and now you have to teach your students, because our students, this is what, it's just where it's at. What you've done in the past is not going to be relevant to what they're doing now.
Yeah. It is so true, because as I said yesterday, when you actually look in the physical classroom, the same way it was in the 1700, the only difference is there were blackboards, and we now replace it with the whiteboards.
And guess what? And now we have PowerPoints. When I was in school, we didn't have all that. So we didn't have PowerPoints. You had the professor talking, and you had to write notes.
Yeah.
Now people come to school, if you don't have a PowerPoint, like I can talk about 2 weeks ago, my technology messed up, right? I think it was doing a reboot during the time I need to be in class. But I had my iPad, I had my iPhone to get on my Zoom. But everybody's like, oh, we don't have a, we don't have a PowerPoint. Well, guess what? I still got that book.
Yeah.
And I'm still able to teach. So teaching will still take place. We were teaching before PowerPoints. We had to listen and take notes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's just one of those things. Sometimes you have to go back old school, but yeah, it's just a different time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is very true. At times we need to, definitely go back to old school. But the fact is, education have not even moved enough to new school. Only now they're moving to new school.
Right.
Only now.
Right. And I started, when I was in elementary school, I'm starting to see students have their little iPads, and they're learning from the iPads, or they're doing like some different, like read aloud books and different, like in the younger grades and things like that. I think now students really, with curriculum, they're going to have to think out of the box on how they're going to be able to serve. Not only that, a lot of times people just teach and then expect everybody to learn it in just one way, when there's different ways of how people, the learning styles, and multiple intelligence. So I think it's going to be a lot of diversity in the way that we can connect with somebody, where one student can't see it visually, but might can see it auditory, or might need some manipulatives or kinesthetic to get it. There's so many different ways. Education is such a creative, it should be creative and innovative. It should not be everybody put in a box. Yeah. Because everybody learned differently. So I think it's going to force everybody to do that.
Exactly. And that was what the physical classroom was doing to us as educators. Mm-hmm. It was putting us in the box, and we were teaching like one size fit all. But this online platform have taught us differently. Yeah. Because the students are deciding what fits their creative needs. Mm-hmm. And they're taking what they need to take and leaving what doesn't serve them. So right. That in itself is interesting and innovative. Because you see, as educators, some of us have been always innovative and some wasn't.
Right.
You see,
you're right.
That's the whole thing about it.
Right.
And another thing is, as educators, I don't know how you see this, I do not feel that we had full autonomy in terms of how we were able to teach and maneuver in our own classroom. I felt everything was dictated to us how we ought to do it. But on this online platform, nobody knows what works and nobody knows how to do it. So we are left for the first time to be creative, to be innovative, and to have full autonomy of how and where and what we teach.
Exactly, because when you have curriculum and then they give you curriculum and then everybody does and implement curriculum certainly, but then that's where what you're talking, I'm thinking of the differentiation. We teach on this way, and you might have some students that are a lot quicker or gifted in learning the concepts, and then we have those who might need a little bit more support. And in that, and just thinking about that, that process where you was talking about the innovation, and just being online, we can do so much online that people just don't really get to see, you know? Like, for instance, I can even talk from higher education. Yes, we have our curriculum. Yes, I'm teaching just like we're in this format right now. But I also try to bring in real life approaches. If I find an article, I want them, and it applies to what they want. I mean, not what they want, but what we're listening to. I try to give them that. If there are Instagram pages, I like Instagram probably more better than Facebook. Well, Facebook too. Twitter, or something for them to read to educate you about different topics, then we provide those resources. And or if I find or know of people who are living in their purpose, and having them to also talk to them, talk to my students. And to me, that brings in the application of psychology. You know what I mean? This is an awesome time to be teaching psychology as it is, because we hit so many different areas. But I even try to bring in different innovation approaches. And I just, before I got on, I had a student that just emailed say, this has been one of the best experiences that I have in your class. And that makes me feel good, because that means I am reaching my students. I'm not trying to hurt you and harm you. And I always start off, as you learn from me, I learn from you. And then they kind of be at an awe. And I'm like, always follow the beat to your drum, but always be willing to learn and to listen, as I'm listening and learning from your experience, your needs, and all of those different types of things. So I just think this is the playing field right now. And this is a good time. I think it is a good time. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, so very true. What age group of students do you teach?
So my students could be high school students that are taking college classes. So I have a range. I would say my range of students could be from 17 and up. I've had them all the way up close to 70. So my students are not traditional students. So, and that's another thing. When we say traditional, what you mean, like 18-year-olds that just graduated from high school and go? No, my students are all over the lifespan. There are some in my 20s, some in my 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And it's really interesting when I teach my lifespan class, because then I'll break in, okay, I'm usually the oldest, but I've had students that are older than me. And then that way we can talk about different discussions, but we're all at different seasons. So I'm in my 40s now, but my 40s was different, or like 40s now, my 40s are going to be different than the ones that are in their 20s. And my 20s was definitely different than what they're experiencing. So it's good, because then we bring in that social, cognitive, and that physical all together at different stages. And then we talk. And it's just like in education. I mean, we can dive into that. I mean, education has changed. And our educational systems are more diverse. It's more multicultural. And we need to bring in all of that in our setting. And that's what I do in my classes. I love it when I hear from a student that's come from a different country, or was raised in a different country. Normally I have students from all over the world, and we can have a discussion, different religions, different walks of life. And it brings inclusivity into the classroom. And then we learn from others. And you actually have students talking about their culture and their experiences versus what they learn, and because they don't know, because if they've never been out or even understand, our world is small. So it's just been, I always have great classes. I really do. And I want everybody to feel comfortable and have an exclusive environment. And we can do this even in this setting here. So,
yeah, exactly. Because you see, I'm also thinking of what you said, because the online platform gives you the opportunity to have students from all over the world. So therefore, you will be looking at the vast array of experiences, and you could only do that effectively through an online platform without students having to spend so much money to be overseas students. You see, that's the thing about it, isn't it? Having the online platform where you are connecting with your students all over the world in terms of, having your overseas student come to the country, being taught, and then they have to go back. Some of them have to go back all year. So which means that you lose that as well. So the online platform really does offer an array of opportunity.
Yes, just think about that. Like I had students all the way from Japan, Africa, we all online having conversation, or different parts of the United States. I had students, they were on the beach taking my class. Hey, Professor Math, I'm on the beach, but I'm in class. So they're like in different locations, or like some dry. I mean, it's just been to me, it's just been fascinating, and learning about people and where they come from. So yeah, I love that. And I think that's what when we said education, that's how we learn. I want to be, just like we talk, as we were talking, we would learn. I'm from Texas, and you say you're originally from Grenada, and just having those connections and we're Black women, and just doing our purpose. It's beautiful. It's just been beautiful. I love learning from, other people and their backgrounds and cultures. That's how we grow. We don't grow in stagnation. We don't grow in tradition. Oh, this is how it's always going to be. Then you're going to still be there. Like when we had MySpace, you're going to still be in MySpace. And now they're TikToking right now. You have to do it with it. Yeah, and I'm not doing all that, And then, well, I probably guess I could because I'm a singer, but you know what I'm saying? We have to get connected with the time.
Yeah.
And education got to grow with the times.
Yeah.
It really do.
Yeah, it is very true. One of the things, the fact that you're teaching mature students, did you have any issues in relationship to them putting the cameras on, or any of the behavior issue? Or, what was it like teaching, teaching them online? Yes, you've been teaching them online before, but now it's like different, because although they used to be taught online, the fact that it becomes a pandemic, they have no other choice here. This is it.
Right. I think a lot of the students, they missed it because, they've heard about the experience that I have in my classrooms when I'm in the physical, setting. But even in this platform where I'm teaching like on Zoom, they still had the experience. Might not have been there physically, but they see the experience. Behavior, I don't have behavior issues. I think they really, they see that I'm real and authentic and down to earth. So they automatically, for the most part, I've been blessed, they automatically connect with me. If there was an issue, they would contact me. However, as far as what's been interesting, a lot of people don't like to show their faces. So they have, they put the picture up or the screen, which comes in handy because if you need to grab something or something like that, you can push this. I'm just now starting to use reactions. So I thought that was funny. I was like, okay, I'm trying to start using, okay, do it. So I need to tell students, do y'all agree? Do your reaction. So, I wasn't doing that before, but now I'm doing it because I've learned to do it. Then we have the chat box. Okay, let's answer your questions. So I can go in there and I'll be trying to, answer it. So, we still have that. We just still have that engagement. But yesterday, I had 2 guest speakers. I had Jane Hancock, singer, songwriter, and I also had Michelle Johnson on there. And I had my students, and this was, it was for a grade. And it was so interesting because I saw more faces. I actually saw the people I was teaching because a lot of them, I thought that was funny. A lot of them, I said, I would love to see your faces so I know who I was teaching. And I saw a lot of them came on yesterday. I said, y'all did that for me. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. But there was still some that had the blank spaces. They probably forgot. And that's another thing. But for the most part, it was, but just think about that. Have an education where nobody don't have to see you. You can be anywhere. You know what? It just click that and you might not even be there. You might be doing something else, but have to click on something. It shows up in their grades if so, you know. So yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, it's been
Wow.
fun. And we're gonna still be totally online for the fall semester, but I'll be teaching just like that in the Zoom format. So I'll teach, actually I'm gonna teach 5 classes. I always teach 5 classes in the fall. So I teach in 2 departments. So my psychology classes will be the blended where I'll teach where it would have been face to face, we'll be doing Zoom, and then they'll do all their work online. And then in mental health services, I normally teach a class called Interview and Communication Skills to teach students how to become working in the helping profession like counselors and things like that. And that's always online. And that'll go between October to January. So yeah.
Okay. So the one that have been in the physical classroom have been your psychology.
Right.
Okay. And how are you teaching psychology online? You know, how is it?
Oh, it's I don't think there's anything different except I'm not there. You know, I'm not on the campus, but we've gotten so much practice. Like if I wanted to bring a PowerPoint, then of course I do the share screen. So they get to see everything that I would do if I was in a physical classroom. Sometimes there's technology issues and things like that. So I'll tell my students, if you can't see it, let me know. And they'll tell, if they can't get to me, they'll text. And that's why it's good we have phones now, because they'll say, oh, I can't get in the Zoom, or I can't see you. And then we can adjust whatever we need to do. So it's just been very interactive in engagement. So I don't really see anything different except that I'm just not physically there. In my classes, at the end of each class, I traditionally have an event called the Last Supper. And that's when we all bring in food. I normally bring in breakfast tacos or tamales and drinks, and everybody brings a dish. And a lot of times people bring a dish from their country or whatever. And then we have a smorgasbord, we eat, and then we have discussion about what we learned in psychology, because our curriculum would be finished really the week before the class ends. But that gives me time. And then I'll normally bring in the paper at the end of the class. But that's our time that I spend to honor them for taking my class, and to just let them know that if you ever need anything, if you ever need support in your life purpose and your career journey, I'm here for you. And so I've always had great, teacher-student professional relationships with my students, and it's good when I see them being successful, becoming doctors, becoming social workers, or going into different areas of their purpose. So that makes me feel good.
Thank you. Another thing in terms of when you're actually teaching them in terms of psychology online, right? The fact that the students, because this group, have you just taught them online straight away, or you had them in the physical classroom before?
So I teach 4 8-week classes. So in the fall and in the spring. So my last March class just hit the pandemic. So I ended my first 8 week from January to March. Then we was in a pandemic. And then after that, the whole class went totally online. And at that time, we still were just doing it online. There wasn't no typical instructions to teach on like we did, like what we're doing in Zoom. But what I was doing before they decided how they were going to do the summer, I was bringing in guest speakers also. So it was online, but I also had opportunities, like when I was a guest speaker with Dr. Sessiony, who is a psychiatrist in the UK, and we was having discussions about the pandemic and fears and counseling, and she took it from a doctor because she's a medical doctor and a psychiatrist and a coach. She took it and from the UK, and she's South African and Asian and British. So she took it from all those perspectives. And I took it from a psychology and a counselor standpoint, and it was multicultural. So from Texas, and we discussed the global pandemic. And so my students, I said, that's going to be extra credit. And guess what? They took advantage of the extra credits. And I had a lot of my students on there, and it was good, you know? So we done I was already thinking innovation. How can we bring psychology to life in real time with the things that are going on? So yeah, so we was already there. So that was my first class, my first 2 classes, because I teach general psych and I teach lifespan growth and development. Then we got when I teach in the summer, which I taught 2 classes, they told us, yes, we are going to be online, but the online classes who are totally online will stay totally online. But the classes that was like hybrid, where you would teach on campus and do your work and the students did their work, we had to teach online, which was good, because that's probably how I was going to do it before they told me. So we can keep the integrity and keep the experience of what they wanted to learn. So I'm already there. I'm always trying to stay, 2 or 3 steps in the game. So it's been a smooth transition. We just finished yesterday. So fall's going to be the same way. So yeah, these last classes, 1, 2, 3, 4, my last 4 classes, second half of the spring and all of summer was during the pandemic in this manner.
Okay, so how did you get, because one of the challenges is getting students to connect like a community online. Because bearing in mind, the students you taught, in their head initially, it would be in the physical classroom, but these have to be on Zoom. So how did you get a community, a school community as we would normally get in the classroom? How did you get that and maintain that online?
Well, the thing about it is, online is a community. We are a community as students. So it's the same way. We are together, and this is our group. I learned from you just as you learned from me. So it was an easy connection. To me, it was an easy connection. People were able, they probably was a little bit different, probably maybe for some, because they wasn't expecting that. But we grew in connection. When we would listen and chat, people were like responding. So they were already like communicating with each other. If I'm teaching something on the chat, they was already doing it. And then I'm just now starting to really get into answering all the questions and things like that. But they was already developing a community of people, and they were very supportive. So like if I'm in a session and some student makes a statement, then another student might piggyback from that and say, yeah, I agree. So it's still the same way. Me personally, it's still the same way. We're all in it together. We're just online. So I didn't really see it as a how to get them in community, because we're already in community. It is, I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, it's
okay.
It was not a difficult situation, because you want in any educational environment, regardless of the platform, you have to speak life to your students, and you are responsible of creating the environment that you want, whether it's online or whether it is in the classroom. The teacher is responsible for that. And I told like my students, just like if we was in the classroom, you might not agree with what somebody else might say, but that's okay. Because I said, we are in a world now that people are so sensitive that they cannot speak their truth. I'm a firm believer, always speak your truth. If you feel this way, then I'm glad that I know that you feel this way, because now I know how, where people say everybody is so guarded. In my psychology class, I did not want, I don't even have that. Everybody must feel comfortable. I have students from all over the world, some religious, some not religious, some believe in God, some don't believe in God. Everybody has a story. And we take all of that in the community and the culture included, and all the gifts and talents that they bring to bring a classroom that it is conducive to learning and learning from others. And that's what people, and as educators, what we have to do, especially with our new generation.
Yeah. I think because you also taught adults, it was slightly easier to maintain a community. Because when you're teaching younger children, to maintain a community as an educator, you have to work that much harder, because you need to know that in the morning you would have to have, like probably a morning ritual, to check in with them, to make sure that they're on the ball, etc. But with the adults, I'm sure they're slightly different. Did you have to do a morning practice, a morning ritual with your student, or you just went straight in?
Oh no, I'm just real chill, laid back. So it's just something natural. I always say good morning, and then we're always talking before the class. And then I've noticed something that was neat that I started to see that would happen before the pandemic. Our topics and discussions be so stimulating that I used to call it after the psychology class, where students are still engaged in talking about different topics. And I'm like, putting the whiteboard up and turning the computer and making sure all the doors are locked. And then we're walking outside, and where everybody will still be, it'd be about 4, 5, 6 people still engaged in the comments and the connection of psychology. So I saw that a little bit the last couple of weeks, where like I might have a guest speaker, and then we're having conversation, and then some students will leave, but I still will have some students that were still there because they still wanted to be in the connection, in the vibe, and just to kind of see that. And I allowed it because I want them to see the authenticity of me and how I am. Because sometimes people fake in real life, this is what they are and what they are, but it wasn't. And even yesterday when I was talking, I still had some students. Some I think it was about 2, but I was like, oh my. So I think it was intriguing. And that makes me feel good that they still want to be there. I know in the chats, some of the students said, I'm going to miss it. And it's always kind of sad at the end, because we've developed like a connection, and now it's time to move on. So I've been getting some emails and people thanking me for the class and all that, and that makes me feel good. It's never like, oh, I've arrived. I never want to do that. I'm always a teacher at heart, and I'm always learning, and I want to make sure that my students got their money's worth in psychology, and be able to apply it in everything that they live for. And that makes me feel good, and to do great things. So yeah, that's a blessing.
Thank you. The other thing with psychology as well, educators who are psychologists need to make sure that when they're teaching psychology, I feel that the student need to connect with it and remember it is in them. When you look at psychology, it's about you. When you look at sociology, it is about you living in your environment. And I say to some of my educators, in order to get your subject to come alive, you need to make sure you are putting the student in the area. So when you're teaching sociology, they need to talk, when you're talking about the family, you need to say, okay, well, in your family, what kind of family exists in your family? Is it extended family? Is it nuclear family? And then you bring in the textbook. So therefore they could actually see the practical aspect of what you're teaching, and then they're able to merge it with the theory. Because I also feel that as educators, in order to bring students, to make the subject come alive, the student need to be connected with it. They need to feel it.
Wow. I know God brought us together because everything that you said is actually what I believe. You know, a textbook is a textbook, but you know what? The theory needs to come alive. You are so right. Because a lot of people speak, or they're just textbook, and they don't have any real life experiences, and they're just teaching a subject. But what I come into play, I'm coming in working in a field for almost 25 years, and being an educator, and also have doing other things. But not only that, I'm in another industry. I'm in the music industry as well. I'm in music business. So I have a variety of perspectives. I deal with people internationally every day. So I think people need to have this theory of, and also see psychology in action. This is the best time to learn about psychology. You said the social psychology and study relationships in the terms in our environment. I'm thinking of Brenner, his ecological standpoint. Yeah, it's just us, but we're here. But what about everything that impacts us from our schools, from our churches, our neighborhoods, or in the country, or global? It's not just about you. How are we and how are we interconnected with the different systems in the world? Yes, indeed. I love what you said. Maybe I need to practice my reaction. Did I do a clap? No, I did a clap. I need to practice on that. I'm doing it. You got a little high five. Yeah, okay, so you took it off. The last time I tried to do it, stayed on. I said, well, when is it going to go away? That's what you know. Yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to educators, we need to make, because you see, something I said last week, and it is so very true. When we talk about engagement is not about the students, it is about the educator making sure they're able to engage the student. It is your duty as an educator to engage the student on the online platform. However, you have to do that, because It's not the student to be engaged. You have to engage them, because I was in one of the teachers group, and one of the educators was saying one of the challenges she was having was engaging the student on the online platform. And she said, oh, they were not, the student were not being engaged, the student were lazy, the student was not listening. And I wrote back in the chat that it is not the student business to engage. It is your business as the educator to engage the student. Exactly. That is what your role is. I said, you need to put yourself in the student's position and see, okay, would you enjoy what you're now teaching them? So It's so important. We need to be reflective.
But you get so many people that are educators, professors, or whatever, and they get into this spot like, I've arrived, I don't need to learn no more, you need to learn what I know, you don't have no connection of what's going on, and then you back in time on top of that. You're not even innovation, you're not in nothing innovative, and you are not moving. You still, like I say, you still on tape cassettes. Back in the day, we used to do those 8-track, back in the 70s, you still on that, and we streaming right now. And do you want to know how come people can't connect with you? Well, that's because you still in time. Yeah. It's just so and then it's not, and they don't. Why are you in this profession? It's not about you. It's how about you connect. And then let's think about the ecological system. Oh, this is our environment, and this is what we do. But in your environment, you have individual people with individual needs. How are you connecting those students to the needs? Not the needs so that you can feel good. If you're, see, this is what I don't understand. If you got an environment and your students are not being successful, I'm going to look at you. Why are your students are not being able to be engaged? You must find whatever you can do to make the students trust you and to come alive. I used to see that as a counselor. Well, they're like this, like that. Even at the university, oh, they're like this. But when I'm talking to them, we're having a great conversation. They feel like that they can be excuse me.
Listen.
Excuse me again. Sorry about that. Had sneeze. That they feel that they can be themselves because they feel like they're being confined. But then when you talk to them and find out there's another issue going on. And this is what I say about educators. I don't care if you're at the college. If a child is going through some type of trauma, going through some type of issue, some family problems, they're going to care less about what you teach them. So therefore, if there's a student that's not being successful, it's your job to find out why are they not being successful and give them the support. I don't understand when people, I'm not saying hold their hand, but at least let them know that, hey, I have somebody who is there for me. But I think a lot of times people get in their little, they just look down on people, and that's just not how it is. And then they want to know how come people drop out of school or people don't like their teachers or their counselors because of the way people, made you feel. And as educators, if we're in this business, we always need to keep mindful of why are we in it and what can we do to meet the needs of students, not your needs. Because you can have an environment, but your students are not being successful, safe, or healthy, there's a problem. But you got to see there's a problem first. You got to be humble enough to see there's a problem, not your reality or what you're wanting, the reality. Stay in reality. A lot of people don't.
It is very true. It is so very true that because engagement is not for the student, it's you. So if you can't engage a student online, you need to be more innovative and creative to engage them online.
And right. You're an educator.
Exactly.
Creativity should come more. I feel it should be more now.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm at a college, so there's a different. I can imagine what it would be like if you was. I haven't taught I haven't taught since 2003. I've been a school counselor since 2003. But I can imagine what teachers are having to go through, in learning the different platforms and knowing are they going to go back to school. I think in public education, I think they're delayed to after Labor Day, which is good because it'll provide them with the safety and health as we see how the pandemic goes, because our numbers in Texas are going up. But then some people feel like, oh, we're going to be back in. I don't see any time soon. But everybody, sometimes that's the way people deal with their reality, to see that there's none. You have to, in this game of life, you have to be able to adapt.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think that this pandemic has forced educators to adapt a lot more than they really wanted to or need to, because you still have, I still have a lot of educators are saying how much they test the online platform, how much they hate it. And I don't understand, because I said to one of them in one of the group, hate is a very strong word. I'm not too sure how you could hate it when the other thing is, if you are adapting to something, therefore there'll be no hate. But if you are refusing to adapt to a situation, then there is the frustration and the hate, because you are not giving, you are just wanting to do things the way you always want to do things, and do not feel that you have to move, because on the online platform, you cannot teach the same way as you teach in a physical classroom.
And that's what has happened. It has revealed what's been going on. So you can't hide for so long. So now it's revealing what you might have been teaching in your class. I'm thinking about higher ed, what you've been teaching in your classroom, if you've been teaching at all. And I would say probably in public education, making sure that those teachers have support. You know what I mean? To have the necessary, because I don't think a lot of times people really know what they want the teachers to do. That's a lot of responsibility for teachers. You know what I mean? How are we going to do this? What we're going to do? It's just more than just the teacher. How the students are going to get tested. What are they going to learn? How are they going to pass? How are we going to do grades? And then discipline, because right now we're doing online, but if they decide to have students back on campus, there's going to be some things that they need to think about. It's a lot. It is really a lot as educators that we have to think about just beyond just the teaching aspect, just the whole organizational system of how we're going to make it, you know? But one thing I do feel like to use the platform to be creative. I think that's important.
It is so very true. It is so very true because we've actually come full circle. And I must say, you know, as much as I found the platform initially being very stressful, just initially, but when I actually start understanding and having and being able to manipulate it and understand it a lot, I'm beginning to really, really, really enjoy it. And I could see how much it would change my teaching. And even though, because we are talking about going back into the classroom, the physical classroom in September, so we don't know whether or not all schools are going to be going in the physical classroom, or some would have a hybrid setup. And I would love the hybrid setup because I do feel that we have learned quite a lot on the online platform. And it is important that we bring that into the classroom in order to maintain innovative creativity and differentiation in the full sense of the word differentiation, because in the physical classroom we could only differentiate that much, because when I'm differentiating in the physical classroom there's only certain things I could tweak in my lessons, but on the online platform we could do so much more. We can actually do specialism for every student,
and we can bring people to life, you know what I mean? Now we can bring again, all this technology was already here. But we just never thought about it because we've been, you know, it's just been, again, the same way. But it's forcing us to be innovative, thinking out the box, and also thinking about the students that we are having now who are in the technological realm. And so, like you said, I would say 5 years ago when I first started online, I thought about it like, okay, I wonder is this going to be hard? But it actually was, I was comfortable. It was really comfortable. And originally I was supposed to be on campus, but I didn't know if I was going to be back from Austin's traffic back in time for the class. So we started online. I've been in the mental health service department online ever since, and it's really comfortable. And so when the psychology professor position came open, where I teach the most, I teach 4 classes each fall and spring. That's where I learned, it kept my skills. I felt like the technology kept my skills current because I was still teaching on campus, but also being innovative online. So when it comes to 5 years later, we're in a pandemic. It wasn't nothing different, except that now I have a Zoom account or Blackboard Collaborate, WebEx. Now I can teach online. But I'm still here. I'm just not in the physical classroom. I think people need to kind of understand it. Yes, we're not there physically, but I'm right here where we're virtual. And that's just where the world is going. Whether we want to be comfortable or not, we have to keep it moving, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And another thing is we need to realize, okay, school is still going on. The physical school is not going on, but school is still going on. We are doing it online. School is still open.
Right. There's no excuse. We're always learning.
School is still
and
open.
Even during that time when they was trying to figure out or whatever, you can always pick up a book and read. And if you don't pick up a book, you got everything on your phone. You know, I mean, everything and anything you can still. And one of the things I brought when I was in the classroom, I still was bringing technology in. So I've always been innovative. I would use like, okay, I'll tell the students, hey, I want you to look up this theory while I'm talking. And they'll look it up and everything. So I've always, and I mean, think about it. We have to stay, again, innovative. Remember our cell phones? Remember when the big old cell phones back in, I mean, they were big. When I was a investigator, CPS investigator. Then we had these big old, then we had a big old flip phone. Who would have ever thought a phone be a little computer? So now you can just look up anything, if my phone is messed up, then we all messed up. You know what I mean? So this is where the world is going. And like you said, education, we're going to have to move with the time. It's just what it is, you know? So.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you very much. Can you give us 3 tips? Before that, what do you think educators need? What do you think right now are the needs of female educators? I am dealing with female because I am a female coach. I'm a coach for female educators. So my focus is on female educator. And the other reason is, as female educators, they fulfill several roles. There's always one of caring. Mm-hmm. So as a result of that, I felt that their needs are much greater. Hence the reason why I am concentrating on female educators. I also feel that in terms of self-care, female educators seem to take less care of themselves.
Yes.
And don't have no time for self-love. So that's another reason why everything I do, or most things I would be doing, would be surrounding female educators, because I do feel that they're not having as much as they should, and they're not doing for themselves as much as they should because of either having family connection, they have to look after family, they have children, then they're educators. And yes, I hear that the men involved do support. I am not knocking that, but even the support they're giving, which is fantastic, you still have the female educator still not able to meet halfway. She still have to do more than the halfway mark in a lot of cases. I am not saying in all cases, so before you guys ready to hammer me, I am not saying in all cases, I'm saying in a lot of cases, the female educator still have to meet the family needs more than half of the way. Hence the reason why my connection is with female educators. Wow. So when I'm looking at, one of the things is, what are the needs of female, not just of female educators, because as female educators, we have varying needs. And right now, what do you think are the needs of female educators? What do you think they need in order to thrive, in order to come alive, in order to support themselves in terms of self-love and self-care? What do you think the needs are?
First thing you have to have is positive energy.
Right.
You know, Proverbs 23:7, when a man thinketh, so is he. We need to have that positive energy and be optimistic. You know, even though we might see rain will come, but there's always sunshine too. So you have to stay optimistic. Number 2, we need to think about our physical and our mental wellness. Both of them, it comes together. Your mental wellness, taking care when your body, I'm talking about physical, but for your mental wellness, when you are tired, when you feel in a certain way, get support. There's so many different levels of mental wellness, whether you need to see a coach, a counselor, a psychotherapist, whatever you need to do to make yourself feel good. That's okay. And that's mental wellness, but also to have that support, but also the physical wellness. Make sure that you take time for proper nutrition. You know, eat and drink. Eat your fruits and vegetables, particularly a plant-based diet. Get your exercise in. Have the natural herbs, our ginger and mint and all those different things, and to put in your body so that you can support a good immune system. And also back to the mental wellness, not only seeing if you need support, but also instead of keeping things in, to be in that place to talk about things. Also look at ways for stress management. Sometimes there's things that you can't control, but in the ability that you can control, to have some stress management. That can look at different ways. That can be looking at something that you enjoy to do, mindfulness, yoga, music. So I do a lot of, music therapy, listening to water, listening to rain. I used to do that when I was doing with my teaching, well, not only teaching, but with my counseling approaches or coaching approaches with women. Having that time for relaxation, to take that time to slow down and think about your needs. Because as educators, a lot of times we're thinking about everybody else's and we're the only ones that come last. But I can talk about it physically, that when you don't take care of your wellness, you will be forced to take care of your what? Your illness. I don't care if it's mental illness or physical illness. So we definitely have to take care of our body, and so that with mind, body, and soul. So when our soul and our aura comes in, we are able to speak life and innovation and bless our students that come into our presence, and also to just always try to continue. What else they need? Support. Teachers need support. They need to be heard. The last 3 years, I've counseled more teachers in my career than ever. And they need that support because they do go through things. They do, not only if they having something with their personal life, but in the organizational structure of education and trying to meet those needs. So they need support. They need administrators or counselors to help them with their support so that they can do their job effectively. So those are the things that
Right, thank you. Okay, right. Can you give us 3 points then for
3
overall?
points. 3 overall
in terms of teaching online, connecting with students and feeling, etc. Yeah.
Okay, you went out just a second. Could you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
Okay. The wonders of the internet. Right. 3 points in relationship to what our main topic was in terms of how you feel teaching online, and in terms of anybody that's teaching online, what advice would you give them? Because you are veteran teaching online already, because you were doing that before. So anybody who are now in the online space, what would you say to them? Actually, someone connected with me yesterday, and she said to me that she's a new teacher. She was teaching in the physical classroom, and she's going online next week from the 1st of August. And there was some apprehension. So I said to her, I'm going to have a connection with her later on.
So the first thing
what would you say to someone?
There's always that fear of that unknown, because if you're just starting online and you've been trained a different way, you're going to be thinking differently. I would recommend to embrace it and learn about the platform that you are going to do. So, and maybe start basic, just so that you're able to function and get those needs in. And as you continue to grow and feel comfortable and confident, then you can look at the other different things. So for instance, for example, I was on Zoom. I was like, oh no, I don't know where I'm gonna do Zoom and everything. But then as you go into it, you learn it, and you're still learning different things, it becomes better. So have the positive mindset. Yes, I know that this might be challenging, but I am going to learn it. The students feel the same way when they're learning a concept. Sometimes they feel what? They struggle. Okay, number one. Number two, keep in mind that we're going to make mistakes. Okay, don't feel and put yourself down because you might not be growing or learning as fast, or you might not kind of figure out your platform or your comfort zone or your rhythm in the way to do it. It takes time. It does. It takes time, and there's trial and error. I mean, we're all in trial and error. There's stressful times, like last one, was it 2 weeks ago? Everything went out. My computer was left on. I was like, oh no. But always just try to take, how I do, take deep breaths, things positive, and I always stay in prayer. And then, let's do it this way or do it that way. And so that you can just continue. So just realize Mistakes will happen, but that's okay. We're all learning together. So that, you know, that first one, you know, just have that positive mind and spirit and just go in, realizing you're not going to know everything, but it's just a learning curve for all of us. And the third thing that I would say is also probably would be self-care. Take the time for your mental and physical wellness. Definitely take that self-care. You know, start the day with however if you pray, positivity, meditate, pray to God, start the day and end the day for reflection and debrief. And then you go into the next day, if the Lord's will, to try again, to be better than what you are. It's all just a full circle of just learning and growth, and just stay in that moment, mindfulness, stay in that moment, and just continue to grow and learn. Embrace the mistakes, embrace the struggles, but embrace everything. That's how you grow. We can't tell our students to get over there if we're not living that life too. We have to just grow with it.
Thank you very much for that. And I totally agree with those things. And I also, what I'm going to say as well, educators, you have done very, very, very well. You need to stop beating up on yourself. Remember, none of us have been trained as educators to be online. We had no idea. No one have taught us that. We had to learn it the hard way. So we really have to thank YouTube as our tutor, because YouTube have actually taught us how to manipulate and how to negotiate this new normal platform. So even though you don't get it right, you laugh about it and you come back the next day. There is no need to be frustrated. There is no need to be angry. It doesn't help the situation. You just have to embrace it and roll with it. We have no choice. You have done so very, very well. Ignore the noise that you're hearing from outside, that educators have not done this. You have to ignore the noise.
That's right.
Because you know where you're coming from to where you are right now. For me, I know that I'm coming from a place of unknown, a place of fear, to where I am now was very confident. I'm even telling people how to go online, connecting Facebook and Zoom. Really? That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm showing on a colleague how you could do that because I have learned it. So there is nothing wrong with reaching out. And That's right. have swum, you did not sink, you are still teaching your student online. Yes, you were fearful to start off with, but you were fearful because of the unknown. We become fearful when we don't know the outcome. And as educators, we all have this control freak element. There is no educator that could tell me that they are not a control freak. We all are. Because we like to know that we are in control of our classroom and what's going on with our students. All educators are control freaks, some more so than others. But the fact that we don't have any control of what's happening on the online platform, we need to just let it go and just ride with it. Yes, you mess up, so what? Nobody say you have to get it right. If you see some of my videos when I started teaching online, oh my goodness, mess up was my name. I was just messing up, and all I'm doing, I'm laughing because I didn't know what I'm doing. And even when I started coming onto this platform, oh my goodness, the first day, mess up, I'm still messing up. So what? It's a learning journey. And we just need to embrace it. One of the major factors, embrace where you are, embrace the errors. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. Failures are there to let us learn, and on the other side of failure, there are the challenges and there are also the triumph. That's so right. Failure, challenge, then triumph. We do have the triumph. We need to embrace it. So educators, embrace where you are and do not hate. Hate is a very destroying and negative energy. Do not hate the platform. You need to look into the platform and see what is good about it to move on. Do not have the negative aspect of the platform, because you have no choice. When you don't have a choice in something, you need to embrace it, because when you don't embrace it, you are just making yourself ill. Because as if you're trying to put a square peg in a wrong hole. You don't need to do that. You need to put the wrong hole, the square peg in the square hole. That's what you need to do. So you need to embrace it. Right. Okay, educators. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening to us, coming onto the online platform. Please share, comment, and like. And I've got so many educators who've actually answered the call I put out for more educators. I went on a platform, on an education platform, which have been going, but some of the education platforms have been blocking my posts. But this one actually embraced it and welcomed it. And as a result of that, I've got so many educators who want to share their story. So I'll be coming back tomorrow with, some days there might be 2 educators online, because I do want to get them all to share their story, because there's so many of them I actually want to share the story. So I'll be back tomorrow with probably 1 or 2, possibly even 3 educators, because I looked at my page just now and I realized, oh my goodness, there's so many of them. And I do want to give all of them the opportunity to share their experiences. So there might be 2 people coming on one of the days, there might be 3, just depends, because I want this to go on until the 7th of September, because after that, I'll be back into education, possibly the physical building, and we'll be looking at how it is like in terms of transition back into the physical classroom, or doing a hybrid setup, or going back onto the online platform. Because when we're going back on, it would be a different experience. Because this first set of experiences are learning experience, and we are making the mistake, we are cocking up all of that. But when we go back in September, we'll be taking the experience that we just gone through to perfect it, or make it much better than we have done, because this I see as a practice run. So in September, it wouldn't be practice run anymore. We will be skilled at the online platform, and we'll be coming from a place of competence, because we've made the mistake already. We were incompetent. We were making the mistakes. We were learning as we go along. So in September or in August, when you go back, I go back in September, we would be much more competent at the online platform. So when I come back online in September, I'll be looking at educators as how they have actually transitioned back with the new knowledge they've got, and demonstrating they're competent in this skill. Right, thanks everybody for listening. If there is anything you want to reach out to me, yes, feel free to do that. Message me or put something in the chat. If there is a question you want answers to, just write it on. If I don't know the answer, I've got loads of educators around me who will help me with the answers. So please like, share, and comment on the videos that you've seen. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a fantastic evening, night, morning, wherever you are, and stay blessed.